What narcissists don't see when it comes to fighting and destroying empathy. Have you ever felt drained after interacting with someone who seemed completely indifferent to your feelings? Imagine being drawn into a conversation where every word feels like a game, where only one side emerges feeling validated. This experience often mirrors interactions with narcissists, individuals whose actions tend to diminish empathy, leaving others feeling unheard or unseen. In this video, we're going to dissect the hidden world of narcissistic behavior and unravel what these individuals fail to see in their constant struggle with empathy. Prepare yourself for a deep dive that might forever alter your perspective on empathy and narcissism. As we start, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share to stay connected for more insights. Now, let's jump right in. Understanding the narcissistic mindset. Narcissists live in a self-centered reality where their needs, perspectives, and desires dominate. From an outside perspective, it may seem they have an unshakable confidence, yet this often masks an underlying insecurity that drives their behavior. Their sense of self-worth is constructed on external validation, which means they rely on constant affirmation from those around them. However, the lack of internal security often leads them to push others down to elevate themselves. What narcissists don't see in their drive for superiority is the subtle way they erode the emotional fabric that binds human connections. Empathy, the ability to share and understand another person's feelings, is usually lacking in their interactions. For most people, empathy serves as an unspoken contract of mutual respect and care. For narcissists, it is often viewed as a vulnerability. This approach strips away the genuine connection that empathy fosters, leading others to feel emotionally used or neglected. Empathy as a foreign language. To a narcissist, empathy might feel as distant and incomprehensible as a foreign language they've never been taught. It's not that they're incapable of feeling emotions. They can experience strong emotions for themselves. However, the gap lies in their ability to genuinely connect with others' emotions. Often, they're so focused on their own needs, ambitions, and perspectives that understanding or even noticing the feelings of those around them is not a priority. Empathy, for a narcissist, exists as a theoretical concept they may acknowledge but struggle to embrace emotionally. This inability to internalize empathy creates a stark divide between how they perceive the world and how others do. While they may intellectually grasp that people have feelings or needs, they can't connect to these emotions in a meaningful way. As a result, narcissists may view others' feelings as background noise, something peripheral that doesn't warrant their full attention. This emotional blind spot leaves them unable to cultivate deep, mutually satisfying relationships because they can't truly understand what makes such connections thrive: shared feelings and mutual respect. When someone close to them expresses distress, hurt, or frustration, the narcissist's reaction is often cold or even dismissive. They may respond with impatience, seeing the other person's vulnerability as a nuisance that interferes with their own agenda. In some cases, this can manifest as overt frustration or irritation, especially if they feel burdened by having to address another's needs. Narcissists might see expressions of hurt or need as emotional tasks that divert attention away from themselves, which can lead to behaviors that seem uncaring or manipulative. What's more, narcissists may exploit empathy in others. Recognizing that empathetic people are more likely to forgive and keep investing in the relationship. They may use another's kindness to secure continued attention, support, or admiration without reciprocating it. This dynamic can create a draining cycle for those close to narcissists, as they find themselves repeatedly offering empathy but receiving little to none in return. Over time, This imbalance not only leaves others feeling undervalued but also traps narcissists in a cycle of shallow connections, depriving them of the deeper relationships they unknowingly crave. For narcissists, the inability to embrace empathy becomes both a social and emotional limitation. It blocks them from experiencing true intimacy, as they're stuck in a loop where relationships serve only to validate their needs rather than foster genuine connections. The destructive pattern of manipulation. Narcissists often fall into a cycle of manipulation that revolves around exploiting the empathy of those closest to them. And this behavior becomes a repeating pattern that few escape unscathed. It begins subtly, with the narcissist casting themselves as misunderstood or mistreated in some way, appealing to the inherent kindness in others. Whether they position themselves as the victim of past relationships, unfair treatment, or any number of life's difficulties, this act of victimization triggers a compassionate response in those around them. People naturally feel compelled to support someone who appears to be struggling. And narcissists use this instinct to their advantage. Once a friend, partner, or family member is drawn into this dynamic, the narcissist often begins to ask for more, pushing boundaries incrementally. They might start with small requests or emotional appeals, subtly increasing their demands over time. The manipulation grows when they begin guilt-tripping the other person, making them feel as though they need to continuously prove their loyalty or support. A narcissist might say, "If you cared about me, you'd do this for me," or "Everyone else has left me, don't you do the same?" These statements tug at the compassionate strings of their target, making them feel responsible for the narcissist's well-being. The impact of this manipulation becomes cumulative, weighing down those involved. Over time, friends, partners, and family members often find themselves emotionally exhausted, bearing the brunt of a one-sided relationship where they provide support but receive little to none in return. They might even start to feel guilty for wanting boundaries or considering their own needs. Narcissists, absorbed in their self-centered perspective, often fail to recognize how their actions take a toll on others. To them, the ongoing emotional investment seems justified as a show of loyalty, oblivious to the growing resentment and emotional fatigue they're creating. What narcissists don't see is that most people reach a breaking point. Constantly siphoning empathy without offering genuine support in return will eventually lead others to pull back, distancing themselves to protect their own emotional health. The narcissist may interpret this as betrayal or abandonment, failing to understand that their own pattern of manipulation created the imbalance. Ironically, this can feed into the narcissist's narrative of being the perpetual victim, reinforcing their view of relationships as fleeting and untrustworthy, without ever realizing that their actions play a significant role in driving people away. In this cycle of manipulation, narcissists remain isolated in their own emotional needs, pushing others away without understanding the reasons behind it, perpetuating a self-inflicted loneliness fueled by their destructive approach to relationships. Narcissistic conflict, a quest for control. When a narcissist enters a conflict, it isn't about resolving an issue. Instead, they see it as an opportunity to assert dominance. Narcissistic individuals rarely enter discussions with an open mind. Rather, their goal is to win. They're looking for ways to turn the situation in their favor, regardless of the impact on the other person. This self-centered approach blinds them to the damage they cause, as they perceive empathy as a weakness to exploit rather than a bond to cherish. In these conflicts, narcissists may use tactics like gaslighting, deflection, and projection to skew the narrative, leaving the other person questioning their own reality. This manipulation damages trust and erodes empathy within the relationship. as the non-narcissistic partner may feel pressured into a constant state of emotional appeasement just to keep the peace. The misunderstanding of vulnerability. One reason narcissists struggle with empathy is that they misunderstand vulnerability. For many, being open and vulnerable is a sign of strength, showing others that they trust and value them enough to reveal their true selves. Narcissists, however, often view vulnerability as a weakness, fearing that any chink in their armor will make them lose control or respect. This misunderstanding leads to a reluctance to express genuine emotions, resulting in shallow relationships. Without the give and take of vulnerability, narcissists fail to experience the depth that makes relationships truly fulfilling. They remain isolated in their own world, missing out on the genuine, mutual understanding that can only come from empathy and openness. The long-term effects on relationships. The lack of empathy doesn't just affect individuals, it leaves a lasting impact on relationships. Friends, family, and partners of narcissists often experience feelings of being used or devalued over time. Without empathy, relationships become transactional, and loved ones might start to feel more like resources than cherished companions. Narcissists fail to see the toll this takes, as they prioritize their needs over those of the people who care for them. In the end, relationships with narcissists often end abruptly or fade away, as others grow tired of the emotional imbalance. Narcissists, left with broken connections, may still fail to see their role in the pattern, often blaming others for being too needy or sensitive. Why narcissists fear empathy? For narcissists, empathy represents a loss of control. To empathize with someone else is to momentarily step out of their self-centered perspective, which can feel like a risk to their perceived strength. Narcissists may fear that by empathizing, they are giving others too much power over their emotional state, revealing vulnerabilities they prefer to keep hidden. This fear of empathy creates a barrier that prevents narcissists from developing deeper connections. Instead, they focus on maintaining an image of invulnerability, even if it means sacrificing the closeness that comes from shared feelings and experiences. The unseen consequences of a life without empathy. Living without empathy may seem advantageous to narcissists, as it allows them to avoid the burden of others' emotions. However, this comes with unseen consequences. Over time, the emotional detachment leaves them isolated, unable to connect on a deeper level. They miss out on friendships and partnerships built on trust, understanding, and mutual support. This isolation can lead to a cycle of loneliness, despite their efforts to surround themselves with people. Without empathy, narcissists are often stuck in a state of perpetual dissatisfaction. Their relationships lack depth, and they may find themselves continually seeking new people to validate them, never fully satisfied. Empathy as the missing link. Empathy might be the one thing that could change the trajectory of a narcissist's life. If they could step outside their self-centered worldview, even briefly, they might start to see how much they're missing out on. Empathy opens doors to authentic connections, allowing for real, mutually fulfilling relationships that don't revolve around control or manipulation. In the end, the narcissist's failure to embrace empathy not only harms those around them but ultimately keeps them from achieving true happiness. Their relentless pursuit of validation and dominance becomes an empty cycle, as they're never able to truly connect with the people around them. Closing thoughts. Thank you for taking the time to explore this in-depth look at narcissism and empathy. If you found this content insightful, please consider subscribing, liking, and sharing to help us spread awareness and foster understanding. Together, we can build a world that values empathy and emotional connection, even when faced with challenging personalities. Until next time, take care and remember, the strength of empathy lies in its ability to connect us all.